Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to this week's episode of The Couch Trip, Therapy for Everyday Life with your host, Bill Courtright, and none other than the wise one, Mr. Eddie Reece, getting along with Eddie. So once again, we want to offer sincere appreciation and gratitude for joining us again. We have a very interesting conversation / episode in store for you today. Eddie and I have been talking over the last few days about what would be entertaining, enlightening, informative for our viewers and listeners. And what we touched on is what I'm going to describe as the entirety that is the human experience, the duality between good and bad, joy and sorrow, happiness and sadness, light and dark, bitter and sweet, to just coin a phrase there. So with that in mind, we hope you tune in because this one's going to be a good one. Eddie, where should we begin when you talk about the human experience? How do you want to start this off?
Yeah, that's your job.
Okay.
You got to crank me up, man.
Understood. Okay, well, we'll start with a question. I think it's pretty clear that most of us walk through life wanting to be happy, wanting to feel fulfilled, wanting to experience more joy than dread, more elation than fear. Right? But I think me. I'm just going to speak for myself as the voice of the listener here. I operate quite a bit from a place of fear, or at least anxiety, or trepidation in a lot of things, until I'm experienced or comfortable enough in a new way of doing things or experiencing things to where that fear subsides and is replaced by memory or familiarity, right? So I don't think that every day is going to be happy, joy, but I do look forward to having a good day every day. What would you say to someone who is living their life in search of bliss, in search of happiness on tap? What would you say to them?
Good luck with that. Gosh, there's so much to unpack here. Duality. Our language, our thinking is based on duality of good, bad, right, wrong. That's a huge part of the problem. The natural world doesn't operate that way. To quote Ken Wilber, there are no good bears and bad bears in the bear world. They're just bears. There's no ugly bears. There's no beautiful bears. So we're the only species that looks at things that way. When you operate from duality, any attempt to go for the good will also be going to eliminate the bad. So you're actually trying to destroy half of the world, and in order to get this half. So in terms of the human experience, you're saying, I want to wipe out half of the human experience, and I only want to have this half. And Carl Jung spoke to this really well when he talked about the shadow, which is, as I go for good, I also create bad. So, and that's our shadow self, which is the parts of us that we don't really want to admit, if we have any knowledge of it. And a good bit of time, we don't even have any knowledge of it. So if somebody sees themselves as really good, they have to keep that up, because none of us are saints, and even the saints don't feel like saints. So you're stuck in this battle. I must do good, be good. Therefore, I must not be bad. I must wipe out bad. So your whole life is really what you're wishing for when you say, I just want to be happy. You're wishing to wipe out half of what could go on because you've named it bad. So big boys don't cry. Crying is bad. So you just simply named a basic human emotion as something to be destroyed. So if you are sad and you don't cry, then you're not experiencing being a human. Whatever it is you experience in its place is either going to be more than human or less than human. And you'll tend to go all or nothing. So this is not bad at all. This is okay. Or, oh, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. Either way, you're not dealing with reality. And I think we've mentioned this, a few times in different ways, that good mental, emotional health is reality at all costs. So my dog died. I'm sad. So be sad. I don't want to judge that as good, bad, right, or wrong. And this duality is ingrained in us from the very beginning, as to, oh, he's such a good baby. Okay. As opposed to the evil babies. They make movies about that. So as I listen to all this rambling, I think the central theme is we wind up living our lives in this battle to be just one thing, and go just for that one thing, and that's the only acceptable thing, which is going to cause all sorts of mental and emotional problems and problems in every area of your life.
Well, Eddie, do you subscribe to the idea that people can live intentionally, that they can strive for certain things, or
Sure.
Do we just simply exist by default?
You can say, I want to be successful. And well, then you have to define success. Okay, so success is this much achievement, hitting this level. You can map all that out and go, that's where I want to go. Okay, that's not a problem. When I hit a golf ball, I wanted to go there. Okay, that's not a problem. That's not going to cause a problem. The problem happens when this goal becomes the only acceptable goal, and it is the good. So anything that's not the goal is bad. That's where the problem comes in, because I look back at my career and I wanted to be successful and I didn't hit these milestones. I'm going to call that bad. Well, I was not successful. I was not good. And I will wipe out any achievements that I made. They're not worth anything. So only this one thing will make me happy. So I'm going to be miserable because I never made it. The golf ball doesn't go right there. It goes over there. So I'm no good. And I see this virtually every round I play. If I play with other people, they hit a golf shot, it doesn't meet that standard of good in their mind, and they just berate themselves. That's the result of that battle. Right? And I remember playing with this guy, the very first hole. One of these guys I describe as, he thinks he's a better golfer than he is, and he was actually, and he actually, I could tell was pretty good at it. And he messed up a shot on the first hole, and he's just railing at himself. And I'm thinking, I do not want to listen to this crap all day. So I'm like, all right, what do I do? So I just kind of stood up beside him as somebody else was hitting a shot. And I said, really good golfers have short memories. And somehow he got the message, and he was okay the rest of the day. So that's the battle that I think most of us live in. And then we wonder, why am I not happy? Why am I not satisfied? Why is this not going well? Well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But you can't tell if you're in that battle. All you know is that you haven't achieved all good and no bad.
Well, yeah, I think the reality there is the expectation, because the expectation being the seed of future disappointment. If you're striving to improve, using your golf analogy, and you're not attached to any specific outcome other than the joy of playing the game, the satisfaction of improving, having a better day than maybe another day on the course. Again, touching on that experience, like you so wisely pointed out on a number of occasions that you view mental health as the ability and understanding and recognition of the entire human experience as it pertains to an emotional, spiritual, cognitive level. The entirety of that, to be able to understand that, to be able to quantify maybe the differences of that, but never to expect any one specific emotion, because from what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, we're not in too much control of that. We can certainly control how we react, regardless of how we pull that club head back. Rarely does that ball go exactly as we've envisioned it.
Yeah, there's quite a few things in your comments. The first part of your comment was, okay, the problem's expectations, so I shouldn't, have any expectations. And then you went on to describe, what I should have is, I'm just trying to improve. I just want this day to be better. Well, there's your expectation again. And so you can begin to see how tricky this really is to ferret out, because we pretty much can't have a thought without it being based in duality, and which is also judgment as to good or bad, which then leads to shame, because if I don't achieve good, then I feel ashamed. I'm not a good person, because we're trying to be happy, because happy people are good people, and good people are successful people, and good people get love and everything else in the world, and bad people get crap. So you're going to be stuck in this even when you try to come up with a solution.
Fair enough. Well, where does virtue, where does righteousness, where does
that's all
any
duality.
Of this fall?
That's all duality.
Okay. So from my perspective, Eddie, help me here. I consider myself a glass half full type of person. And I also believe I live my life intentionally.
Instead of the glass is half full, how about there's 4.2 ounces of liquid in the glass?
And I'm grateful.
I don't care either way. If I want to drink 8 ounces and I go, there's 4.2 ounces, then I gotta add 3.8 ounces. I'm impressed. I just did the math, I think, correctly.
Well done.
So there's no good, bad, right, or wrong. But even then, there is a hint of that, in that I want 8 ounces. Well, why do I want 8 ounces? Because I think that's the right, good amount.
Okay. So you're talking more good. You just made something clear up in my mind, which is you're using good, and what I'm hearing is righteous. But what you're saying is more like correct.
Correct, yeah, but in a mathematical sort of pure data, just
but it's not black and white. It's gray.
It's multicolored. And why does it even have to have a color? And why do you even have to know what that is? So we're really trapped in this. And the trick is to know that I want the ball there. I do. I want the ball there. Okay. That's not really the problem. The problem is my attachment, to use the Buddhist kind of concept, my attachment to that outcome. And the attachment is this idea of good or bad. And then that will dictate my response. So the ball goes where I want it to go. I'm overjoyed. Yay. That's really attachment. I can go ahead and be overjoyed, or I can be upset if it doesn't go where it did. Even in a way, that's not the problem. The attachment that is damaging is that I will make a judgment about who and what I am. So you see the guys hit a bad shot and they go, I suck. Really? Okay, that means you couldn't hit a good golf shot if your life depended on it then. So I don't think that's true. So it's if the end result is shame, then there was attachment and judgment, and you judge yourself harshly. Was working with a client this morning, and I said, I find it interesting that what you're saying, because he was talking about he's like, things are really slow at work. I'm really anxious. I'm like, okay, I don't know anything about work. Well, why is that a problem? Your paycheck was the same, wasn't it? Yeah. Okay. Great. You don't have to work much and you get the same amount of money. Can I have that job? You know, but you're anxious. Why are you anxious? Well, the anxiety comes from, as you're saying, the expectations that if it's slow, the powers that be are going to look at me. They're going to say I'm worthless, and then they're going to get rid of me, and then I get laid off. And I go, okay, so you get laid off. Why is that a problem? Well, you know, I've been laid off before, and what happened? Oh, I got another job. Okay, so who cares? Yeah, but then I got to go through the process. Is it going to be this kind of job? Is it going to have this? Is it going to pay? Well, all I can hear from you is that there are no options to it being slow around here. That can have no other meaning but doom and gloom. There's no other option. And if I throw out an option like, oh, cool, you know, I don't have to do so much. And I get, you know, inside, at least inside, you're going to be rolling your eyes at me, laugh. So you're going to wipe out and you're predicting the future. So now you're clairvoyant and you are sure your predictions are so. You're also crazy because you can't do that. And you're also making sure that there is no way for anything to be other than anxiety.
Well, surely some
result of duality.
Well, surely some level of expectation and anxiety can be healthy. I mean, am I wrong?
No, I mean, anxiety is natural. It's why we're here as a species. If we weren't anxious, if we weren't ADD and looking around, we wouldn't have survived. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with I can be anxious. There's something wrong if you're creating that and you're creating it based on things that simply aren't. You don't have any idea. Maybe you will get laid off. But that doesn't mean all is law. And so you need to be, because the anxiety is a problem and the reaction to the anxiety. I have to be proactive. I have to go do something. So I feel threatened. So therefore fight, flight, freeze. I got to do one of those four things because my life is on the line.
So where does a concept like accountability come into play for, you know, me personally, father, husband, professional? You know, how do I reconcile accountability? The feeling that I have responsibility. I do put some expectations on myself. I feel like it's appropriate to do so. I think a lot of guys and gals out there probably feel the same way. How do I know I'm not going too far in one direction?
Look at what it does to you. Look at your reaction. Look at what and if it looks, tastes, smells like all good, no bad.
I hear it's clearly spring in Georgia as the weed whackers and leaf blowers are in full effect.
The sounds of salute. So you go for it. We can pick back up with an awareness of your mental and emotional state, you know, and if you're anxious, that doesn't mean react. The basic response to pretty much anything is curiosity. If you want to try to come away from duality and be more mentally and emotionally, isn't that interesting? I'm feeling like I'm not being the best father, provider. Okay. Well, what does the data say? I'm really big on that. Don't sit there and make up the data in your own mind. You gotta go look. You gotta, you know, talk to your wife, talk to your friends who know you, who see you as this provider, husband, person, and say, does it look like this is happening? And they go, yeah. Then the hard part is to actually believe them. Because most of the time we're going to go, well, they don't know what they're talking about. And we're going to go ahead and react because that's what we trained ourselves and been trained to do, which is why we were asking the question in the first place.
So it sounds like, what I'm hearing you say is that a lot of this is tied to identity and whether or not in our mind we're in some weird way approving of our behavior as it relates to that prescribed identity.
Yeah. Are we good or bad?
Yeah, there we go. We're right back to where we started. And that's the beauty of the conversation.
Yeah. Are we good or bad? And the answer is always going to be you're both.
Yeah.
I think I'm more often than not a kind, caring person. At the same time, I'm a real a-hole at times. So, and I say mean, horrible things that I wouldn't want public, and think mean, horrible things. That's all me. And to go in and say, I'm going to fight this. Okay, so I'm gonna stop overeating. Okay, well, good luck. Because as soon as you go into that yes, no, all or nothing kind of mentality, it's like, whatever you do, Billy, don't think about a zebra for the next 10 seconds. Our brains just don't work that way. Our brains work from pictures. So if you go, I'm going to stop overeating, then you have this picture of not eating, which is going to make you panic because you have to eat. So you're going to wind up eating more. So you go, okay, well, what's another option? I'm going to learn to eat and in a reasonable way so that my intake matches my output. And then get you a fitness tracker that looks at how many calories you burn and look at that over a period of time and find the average. And if you're burning 2,200 calories a day, you got to eat less than 2,200 calories a day. That's just math. But even knowing that, we all know eat less than you need. We all know spend less than you make, but we don't do it because of the emotional issues that are in that we don't know what, and sometimes don't even are there.
Well, you said something really, really wise a moment ago, which was awareness. And I think a lot of this, grace, duality, permission, whatever term you want to use, it's at first, you can't make any sense of it at all until you have a level of awareness, self-awareness.
Right.
I think more importantly. And that's a rare thing.
Yeah, decades ago, I jotted down a line that said, there's such a lack of self-awareness in our culture that when most people masturbate, they're having sex with a stranger. We just don't know ourselves. And so, and if you think you do, think about the last argument you had with a loved one. And did you hear anything at all that said you're this way? And have you ever heard that before? And the answer is going to be yes. And is it true? No, not really. Yes, it is. Couples come in and argue and they go, you're this, or you're this, or you're that way, or you're like that. And I go, it seems like you guys are trying to decide who's right and who's wrong, And they go, well, yeah, because, he shouldn't and she shouldn't. And I go, okay, well, let me just solve that real quick for now and forever. You're both right. You just don't package it very well. So let me teach you how to say what it is you're actually wanting to say. I had a couple this morning. Their argument was he needed some hand lotion. He needed some lotions. She wants to buy the lotion for him so she can buy lotion that doesn't have scent. Okay. So she says she'll get the lotion. Well, for whatever reason, she didn't get the lotion as soon as he wanted. So he went and bought lotion. And of course, he buys the smelliest, most obnoxious lotion possible. And he spent time looking at reviews so that he could buy good lotion. For whatever reason, didn't think about the smell, which is her main thing. And they shared this big argument they had. And they're both right. You know, that you went and bought this lotion that's obnoxious to me. You know, yeah, you did. Mm-hmm. And you're mad at me because I bought lotion. Well, yeah, sort of. But lotion that bothers her. I mean, he did the best he could. She did the best they could. They're both right. And they're both wrong about what it is they believe the other person did. Right? There was no ill intent either way. You know, people will come in and go, and they do this on purpose. And I go, really? So they wake up in the morning and they go, let me see, what would be the best way for me to really piss them off? But you want to believe that their intention's bad, therefore they must be destroyed.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, my wife has heard me say more times than I care to admit that I would rather be happy.
Which is a little better than the most important thing to me is being right, but it's still the same thing.
Well, it's actually, yeah, it's almost acquiescing to something you might not even believe in or agree with just to avoid the confrontation.
Yeah. So I tell people, you know, being right's not a problem. You want to be right. Being judgmental. Or
true anyway.
Well, true, right, honest. Yeah. Why not? You know, which is especially applied to self-awareness, but you're not going to be a lot of the time. So I think it's better to go, I'm going to do my best to make an honest assessment. Because right is great. Righteous is not. When you take your rightness and demand it from the other, that they agree with you, that's when you're going to have a problem.
Yeah.
Even if they agree with you, because nobody's going to tell me what to do. That's not a good survival skill. Let people just tell you what to do, and then you do it. Oh, wow. Mm-mm.
So tie a bow for me around the idea that because you alluded to this a minute ago, which is the assessment and the how does it make you feel and the self-awareness. So as we're recognizing anxiety or expectation or goals or a desire for a certain outcome, not a demand, but a desire, what would you say to one of your patients who is in search of a sense of health? Like, give me a sense of I'm on the right track. If
you are very amenable and to the point of seeking out the fullest human experience possible. So if you experience the death of a loved one, you want the fullest human experience possible. I remember I had a therapist who died, and I went to the funeral, huge funeral. This guy had been around forever. And his wife's on the front row throughout the entire service, non-stop for well over an hour, wailing. And I was so impressed. I was like, yeah, how could you feel any of it? That's what you shoot for. You know, that when something precious is gone, it's going to devastate. There's a guy that wrote a book, I never read it, but I love the title and he uses it a lot. A good marriage will break your heart. Yeah. That's why when we lose a pet, and some people will actually admit it, this is harder than losing a human. And the reason is because that pet just is nothing but love. And, you know, some comedian talked about it. Yeah, dogs, man. Like, you could lock your dog in the trunk for a week, you know, and then open the trunk and he's like, yeah, good to see you. You know? So you you lose something precious that devastates. I remember all the conversations and writings about how strong Jackie Kennedy was and how good that was for the nation. She wasn't strong. She looked completely unaffected emotionally.
Numb.
No wailing at all. That's not good in my good, bad, dual world. She's not expressing what's going on. She's not able to. And chances are she's in shock. But two, my guess is she was taught the same thing all of us are: be strong. Strong is unaffected emotionally. Weak is affected emotionally. No, strong is I can lift this. Weak is I can't lift. Being unaffected emotionally is not a good thing for your nervous system.
Eddie, I love where we're going to end this today. Full spectrum emotion, full human experience. Mm-hmm. It's consistent with who you are as a man, as a therapist, as a friend. You've always said to be able to experience the 100% of the spectrum that is human experience and emotion as it relates to that experience is what life is all about. And it consistently, it showed up again today. And I appreciate you getting vulnerable, and I appreciate you making it make sense, because I think we all want our friends, family, and spouse in the front row wailing uncontrollably as we graduate to the next space.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the master, Eddie Reece, myself, Bill Courtright, we want to again express sincere gratitude. If you found this insightful, please give us a comment, hit the like button, subscribe to our podcast and newsletter. If you have any ideas for future episodes or guests we might have on, please don't be a stranger. Reach out. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll certainly incorporate that into future episodes. Once again, this is Bill Courtright on behalf of Eddie Reece signing off this week's episode of The Couch Trip, Therapy for Everyday Life. We'll talk to you next week.